What's this? A letter for me.
Welcome to another episode of Remember the Great Sports Through the Mail Thursdays. Today I'm going to share with you 3 recent returns that I just got back in the mail, so we'll just jump right into this first one. And it is postmarked from Arizona, and this is a return from former Minnesota Twin / Kansas City Royal infielder Jerry Terrell on 4 of 4, including his senior league card. So as you know, I have done a lot of videos collecting the senior league set. One of my favorite sets to start, collecting. I have shown a lot off in those videos. I just don't know why I caught the bug here in the last couple of years, because I've seen a lot of people that are in this set, and now unfortunately some of those people have passed away. If I would have just been a little more aggressive when trying to get this signed, I probably could have got a lot more out of this set signed. Well, in addition to Mr. Terrell signing these 3 cards, I'm going to zoom out a little bit here so I can show this to you. He also sent me a personalized testimonial letter as well. And he personalized it to me at the top there, and you can see that he actually signed it down here at the bottom as well. But this is obviously a printout that he, fills in the blank, so to speak, for everybody. But it was very nice of him to send a personalized letter with his signature, talking about being blessed for having the ability to play Major League Baseball, and put his favorite Bible verse down at the bottom there as well. And as you can see on the cards, he inscribed each one Romans 10:9 as well. So I'm going to tell you about Jerry Terrell and his career in baseball. Jerry grew up in Minnesota, where he attended high school, and he also attended high school at Minnesota State University, Mankato. The Twins selected Jerry in the 18th round of the 1968 draft, and he began his minor league career in rookie ball and A-ball for the Twins organization. He had a pretty fair year in 1968. However, his season was cut short in 1969 as he had a U.S. military commitment and pretty much missed the entire 1969 season during the Vietnam War with his military commitment. After his season in 1969 was lost, he came back in 1970 and appeared in 118 games in single A for the Twins affiliate, posting a .279 batting average. The following year, in 1971, he was promoted to Double A, where he appeared in 109 games. In 1972, he would be promoted to Triple A, appearing in 119 games. And in 1976, out of spring training, he made the Minnesota Twins roster. And on April 14th, 1973, Jerry Terrell made his Major League debut, playing for the Minnesota Twins at the age of 26 years old. Terrell would primarily be used as an infielder, as a second baseman, third baseman, and he would appear in 124 games his rookie season for the Twins, posting a solid .265 batting average. The following year, in 1974, he would again appear in 116 games for the Twins, but his batting average would dip down to just .245. After some struggles, he split some time in 1975 between AAA and the majors. However, in his time in the majors, he appeared in 108 games and batted .286 that year for the Twins. The following year, in 1976, he was delegated to part-time utility role, where he only appeared in 89 games for the Twins that year. In 1977, it'd be more of the same, where he'd be more of a utility-type player, platoon-type player, where he appeared in 93 games for the Twins in 77. After the 1977 season concluded, Jerry was granted his free agency, and he signed with the Kansas City Royals. Looking for another start with the Royals, he found himself again being kind of the backup infielder, with a very superb infield of both Frank White and George Brett in Kansas City. And Terrell would be the backup in 73 games that year in 1978 for the Royals. He would come back in 1979, appearing in just 31 games in a backup role, and in 1980, he would spend more time in AAA than he would in the majors. After appearing in just 22 games in the majors in 1980, he would be relegated to 42 games in AAA for the Royals. After the 1980 season, Terrell retired as a player from the Kansas City Royals. One thing that is noteworthy about Terrell in 1979 when he was with the Royals, He actually made his pitching debut on August 20th against the Yankees at Royal Stadium. The Yankees were leading the game 16-4, and Terrell was just thrown out on the mound because the Royals threw in the towel, so to speak, and he actually got the Yankees out in the ninth inning by throwing only 3 pitches. He threw 3 pitches, and all 3 batters hit it into outs in his major league pitching debut. So, not a bad record. 3 pitches with a 0 ERA in your major league debut as a pitcher. After his playing days, Terrell became a scout. He worked for both the Royals and the Twins in this capacity, as well as the Montreal Expos. Terrell also became a manager in the minor leagues in the 90s after his stint in the senior league in the early 90s. He became a manager, and I actually, in my younger days, I actually saw Mr. Terrell as the manager of the Burlington Bees. So I got Mr. Terrell to sign some cards many, many years ago, but this is the first time I've ever gotten him through the mail, and I want to thank him for signing those cards, as well as adding this extra nice note as well to the equation. So we'll move on to the next signer. All right, so this next one is also postmarked from Arizona, and it is former catcher Duffy Dyer on 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I don't know how closely you can see, but the 69 Mets card actually got smeared here at the end. So unfortunately, all it says is Duffy D. He doesn't, the YER, he must have not waited for it to dry and, put it back in there. And unfortunately, it got a little bit of erase, but I powdered the heck out of that card before I sent it to him. So it certainly wasn't a baby powder issue. It was just, unfortunately, he didn't let it dry before he put it back in the envelope, and that happens sometimes. So let me tell you about Duffy Dyer and his career in baseball. Donald Robert Duffy Dyer was born in Dayton, Ohio. However, he grew up in Arizona, where he attended high school and then later Arizona State University. Dyer played alongside Sal Bando and Rick Monday as a member of the 1965 College World Series Arizona State baseball team. He was drafted by the Mets in 1966 of the Major League Draft and rapidly moved his way up through the minors, being a part of the 1969 Mets, where he backed up Jerry Grody. This would be a role that Dyer would continue to have all the way through the 1974 season, where he would be the primary backup catcher to Jerry Grody in the Mets dynasty teams. In 1972, in 94 games that he played, he posted career highs with 8 home runs and 36 RBIs, as Grody was injured for most of that season, and he played the majority of the games for the Mets that year. After his time with the Mets in October of 1974, Dyer was traded to the Pirates for Gene Clines. He then became the backup to legendary catcher Manny Sanguin and helped lead the Pirates to win the 1975 Eastern Division. In 1977, the Pirates decided to trade Sanguin away, and Dyer became the catcher in platoon duties with catcher Ed Ott. Dyer would continue to be the catcher for the Pirates through the 1978 season. After the 78 season, he was granted his free agency and he signed with the Montreal Expos. At 33 years old, Dyer went to Canada and caught in 28 games as the backup catcher for the Expos that year behind Hall of Famer Gary Carter. After the 1979 season, he then signed with the Detroit Tigers as a backup and appeared in 48 games, backing up Lance Parrish as the backup catcher in Detroit. And following the 1980 season, he would appear in just 2 games for the Tigers in 1981 before they would grant him his release in May of 1981. So, to wrap up his playing career really quick, this guy was the backup catcher to some of the greatest catchers from the 1970s and 80s. So, starting with Jerry Grody, going to Manny Sanguin, then going to Gary Carter, and then finally Lance Parrish in his heyday. So, Duffy Dyer definitely could probably tell some stories. Another neat fact is Duffy Dyer was the catcher when John Candelaria pitched his no-hitter. So he was the catcher of note during that game. After his playing career, Dyer worked as a coach for the Cubs, the Brewers, and the Oakland A's organizations. He also worked in the minor leagues for the Twins, and he helped lead the Kenosha Twins to the Midwest League Championship in 1985 as their manager. After his time in the minors, he would take various coaching catcher coordinator jobs in different organizations, including the San Diego Padres. In 2013, he still had the love for coaching, and he decided to come back and be the manager of the Kenosha Kingfish of the Northwoods League Collegiate Summer Baseball team. He would hold this post for nearly 6 years, so that would be, I guess, up through 2019, where he would coach in the Wooden Bat League, and he would, I would assume, decide to retire from coaching. And I'm Duffy Dyer again, one of these guys that I've profiled on my channel that has had a lifetime in baseball, that, he played collegiately, at one of the best programs in the history of baseball at ASU. And then he obviously went on to play for the Miracle Mets. And then he caught basically through the 1980s. I mean, he had a solid decade being a backup catcher in the major leagues. Not a bad gig, if you ask me. And then he used all that knowledge that he had to become a coach in the minor leagues and eventually in the Collegiate Summer Baseball League. So if Duffy Dyer would write a book, it'd probably be a pretty good read with his career in baseball. So thank you, Mr. Dyer, for signing those cards for me, and we'll move on to the next one. All right, so this final one is postmarked from California, and it is from former Baltimore Oriole, Los Angeles Dodger, lefty pitcher, Pete Richert on 4 of 4, including the all-time Orioles set. So let me tell you about Pete Richert and his career in baseball. So I'm not sure if you pronounce his name Richert or Richert, so we're just going to go with Pete on that. So I apologize if I'm butchering Pete's name. Pete grew up in New York, where he attended high school in New York, and he signed right before the 1958 season with the Los Angeles Dodgers as an 18-year-old just out of high school. In 1958, Pete would be assigned to the Class C affiliate of the Los Angeles Dodgers, where he would start 27 games at 18 years old. The next year, he would be promoted to the Class B affiliate, where he would appear in 22 games as a starter for the Dodgers affiliate, appearing in 23. The following year, in 1960, he would be promoted to Double A, and he would post a 19-19 record in 36 games for the Dodgers Double A affiliate. In 1961, he would be tested at Triple A, and he would post a 5-10 record, which was adequate at the time. Then in 1962, he would make the Major League Club and make his debut on April 12, 1962 in Dodger Stadium. The 22-year-old Richert set a record by striking out the first 6 batters he faced in his Major League debut. He entered the game with 2 outs in the top of the 2nd inning, with his Dodgers trailing 4-0, and struck out Vada Pinson for the final out. Richert then recorded a 4-strikeout 3rd inning in which his victims were Frank Robinson, Gordy Coleman, Wally Post, and Johnny Edwards. And the reason that he struck out 4 in 1 inning was because of a passed ball by Johnny Roseboro. His record-tying 6th strikeout was of Tommy Harper leading off the 4th. Richert remains the only pitcher to record a 4-strikeout inning in his Major League debut. So that's quite a trivia question there for you. He also set a Major League record by retiring 12 consecutive batters, the most by a pitcher making his MLB debut as a reliever. This was later broken by Max Scherzer, future Hall of Famer Max Scherzer, most likely. Over that year in 1962, he went 5-4 as a spot starter in a rotation led by future Hall of Fame duo of Don Drysdale and Sandy Koufax. So could you imagine getting up to the major leagues and the 2 guys sitting in the dugout next to you, the other pitchers on your pitching staff, are Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale? The following year, 1963, went 5-3 on a Dodgers team that won the World Series. So just the following year, Pete got his first World Series ring. Unfortunately, Pete didn't get to pitch in the series as the Dodgers swept the Yankees 4-0. In 1964, he would spend the season with the Dodgers again, but after the 1964 season, Pete would get traded along with longtime Dodgers legend Frank Howard, Kenny McMullen, Dick Nin, and Phil Ortega to the Washington Senators for pitcher Claude Osteen and John Kennedy and cash. Richert's 2 full seasons with the Senators in 65 and 66 were the 2 best seasons of his career. In his first year, he won a career-high 15 games and posted a 2.60 ERA that year, a career high. In the following year, his record wasn't as great, where he posted a 14-14 record, 500, but his ERA was still just 3.37 and set a career high in strikeouts with 195 that year. In both of those seasons, Pete represented the Senators at the All-Star game and unfortunately became the losing pitcher of note at the 1966 game, giving up a single to his former teammate, of all people, Maury Wills, in which drove in the winning run in the 10th inning. After going just 2-6 to start the 1967 season with the Senators, Pete was then traded to the Baltimore Orioles for Mike Epstein and Frank Bertrand. To finish out the year, Richert posted a 7-10 record with the Orioles, and that would be the last time that he would be a starter. In 1968, the Orioles would transfer him to a relief role as a lefty, and he posted a 6-3 record with a 3.47 ERA. Pete was an integral part of the Orioles bullpen that reached the World Series 3 consecutive years from 1969 to 1971. Pete would win his second World Series with the Baltimore Orioles in 1970. After the 71 season, the Dodgers liked him so much that they decided to trade for him again. And this is what brought Hall of Fame player Frank Robinson to the Los Angeles Dodgers. So he was part of the Frank Robinson deal that basically sent Frank from the Orioles to the Dodgers. He would just spend 2 seasons, again, with his reunion with Los Angeles, and would then eventually get traded from the Dodgers to the St. Louis Cardinals for outfielder Tommy Agee. His time in St. Louis would only be a couple months long, as he would later be purchased on June 21st by the Philadelphia Phillies of 1974. Pete would finish up the 1974 season as a Philly, posting a 2.21 ERA with 21 games that he pitched in for the Phillies. And despite having these excellent numbers as a lefty reliever, Pete was released from his contract from the Phillies that year and did not play in Major League Baseball after that. So, he had an excellent season in 1974. He posted a 2-1 record with a 2.27 ERA and didn't find himself a job in 1975, which is kind of crazy because that seems like a pretty good shutdown relief pitcher, left-handed pitcher, and I wouldn't see why somebody wouldn't give him a shot. So overall, during his 13-year baseball playing career, Richert would compile 80 wins, 925 strikeouts, and post a 3.19 ERA as a lefty pitcher. After his playing career ended, Richert would get involved in the, late 80s would be the best way to put it, as a coach, pitching coach for the Oakland A's organization. He would hold the position with the Oakland A's organization at various locations, basically through, it looks like, he would actually do a stint from 1995 to 1999 in Canada for the Edmonton Trappers and the Vancouver Canadians. After his time with Oakland, he would then move on to the San Francisco Giants organization, where he would be the pitching coach for their affiliate in the Fresno Grizzlies for a couple seasons. After his time as a coach, I'm not really sure what he did after that. After 2001, I would assume that he retired from baseball. Very happy to add Pete to the collection, another one for the Orioles collection. Also very happy to add Mr. Duffy Dyer to the collection as well. Unfortunately the Mets card didn't make it, but maybe I have another one laying around I can send him sometime. I'm also very fortunate and happy to add Mr. Terrell to the through the mail collection. Again, like I mentioned, I saw him in person many years ago. I want to thank him for sending that extra note discussing his relationship with God. I want to thank you for taking the time to learn about these players that maybe you did not know about. I look forward to your comments below. And as always, happy collecting.